Hi, welcome to Sandra's Sisterhood. I'm Carrie, and this is a YouTube channel for the single and childless, not by choice person. Our video today is if you want to change your life, do new things. So I have been spending the past few months in Florida, which is not the state that I live in. I've been doing that because I wanted to shake things up a little bit. I was feeling like in a rut, I was feeling bored, and kind of feeling like I am doing the same thing every single day. I want to explore. I want to take this supposed freedom that I have because I don't have kids and I'm not married, and I want to go take that out for a spin. So I just sort of sucked it up, planned ahead, made sure I budgeted around it. And so I found a place and I've done it. I have loved the experience so far. And one of the things that I've really relished in is I'm staying in an Airbnb where she hosts dinner sometimes for the different people that are staying with her. I have found these to be really interesting because I'm meeting people that I wouldn't generally meet. A couple of the people recently have been more entrepreneurial, and I have not been exposed to that in my life. I don't know much about being an entrepreneur, but as I get older and think about some of the freedoms that I want in my life, it really intrigues me. Now, I also know that it can be a really difficult life, that the grass isn't always greener. I also like what I'm doing right now, but the mindset of if you don't like something, then just change it. Or if you have an idea, then try to execute on it versus thinking about all the reasons why something wouldn't be a good idea is really good for me. It's good to expose myself to that. So one of the things that they were talking about is if you don't like something, then change it. And one of the things that you can do to change it is you learn new things. So always be a learner. Always continue to explore. And if you have an interest, then go learn more about that interest. I'm like, I love that idea. And it got me thinking, what are some things to do if you want to learn new things? So I have a couple of suggestions here in this video. I know for many of us, particularly if we get stuck in some grief or we're in that low mood or maybe even a little depressed mood, particularly if you have anxiety, it can feel like, yeah, that's really easy to say. That's something that like influencers say, but it's really not the same as executing and putting that into play into your own life. So here are some practical ways in which you can do that. Number one is try new hobbies and try new things. Go to places where you haven't gone before. So what I'm doing is an example of that because I'm somewhere where I wouldn't typically go and I'm around people that I typically aren't around in my kind of real life. I am meeting new people and it's exposing me to new ideas, new concepts, and new things. So maybe it's not moving somewhere for multiple months at a time, but maybe you want to pick up pickleball. Maybe you want to pick up tennis. Maybe you want to pick up knitting. Maybe you want to go do some things that are different. Well, then go to places where those people are and you'll meet them while you're also engaging in something that you can feel excited about and feel like you have some energy because you're doing something new. Number two, listen to a podcast or read some books on these things that interest you, right? Maybe you start to become more interested in personal finance and you start to listen to some podcasts around that, and then you follow them on social media, and then you find out that they have conferences and they have meetups. And you're like, wow, I didn't even know this was out there. If you find a group that is doing a podcast around something, odds are there's enough people who also enjoy that concept or that thing to where there's meetups, or again, there are conferences or expos, or maybe it's just something you like to do at home where you're learning off of YouTube. Identify these things that you like and then get all the content that you can around it. The more content you listen to or you read about it, the more you'll find out where these fun things are that are associated with this topic. Number three, go to new places. This doesn't have to be like in my situation where I've gone to a completely different state, right? But maybe it's trying out a new restaurant. Maybe it's trying out a new coffee shop. Maybe you're going somewhere that's on the other side of town that you never go to. Maybe you're going on a day trip somewhere. Or maybe you are going somewhere that requires travel, a plane ride, what have you. But it doesn't always have to be the biggest extreme. You know, I think sometimes when we think about, oh, I'm going to do something new, we always take it to the extreme. Like, oh, I'm going to work out. Well, then it turns into, I'm going to work out 6 days a week. But that's a big jump. You know, data really shows that when we take things one step at a time, we're more likely going to follow through because we find ways to then integrate it into our life versus completely disrupting our life and then all of a sudden not being able to keep up with that routine. So in terms of finding new places to go, it doesn't have to be the big thing. It can be the smaller thing where you're going, instead of the coffee shop around the corner, you're going to go to the one that's 15 minutes away. You're going to try something different. And then maybe you're like, wow, I'm really into trying out different local coffee shops. And then you find the community in that. And then you learn something more about maybe coffee or where coffee is made or where you want to go in the world that has a specific influence around that. So trying one small thing can lead to those bigger steps down the road. Try a new meetup now. Meetups can be anxiety producing. For a lot of times, it's like the go-to thing that people suggest when they're not in a shared experience or a similar lived experience. And they're like, oh, go to a meetup. And then it's sort of implied that that will solve all your problems. So I don't mean to suggest a meetup in a way that's devaluing or minimizing the difficulty of the experience that you're in. It is just a step you can take to just get yourself out of that rut or try something new. There's lots of different types of meetups out there. The meetups that I like are the ones that are a little more low key. So it's not necessarily the big hiking meetup where we're going to meet up and go on this big long hike. But instead it might be, oh, let's try a new restaurant in town. And I don't have somebody to go with maybe as soon as I want to do that. And so I'm going to draft off a meetup so where I can meet some new people and then also try that restaurant, for example, that I wanted to do. So there's some lower key meetups out there that you can explore and think about too. Again, it doesn't always have to be this big grand thing. Start small. It's like the snowball that picks up snow as it rolls downhill, right? Start small, just put a little bit of snow on it, and the more it moves forward, the more momentum you will get to continue to do these things. The hardest part about engaging in any of these things that I just suggested is that when it feels like you're stuck, when it feels like you're in a rut, and it feels like all your self-talk is telling you all the negative things, when your self-talk is trying to convince you that you won't have a good life, that your life is going to be boring, that nobody likes you, nobody wants you, that you're not able to have a fulfilling life because you don't have kids, you'll never know love. Like that all gets overwhelming. And for many of us, it like flitters on repeat constantly. Try and break through some of that. The best way to break through it is to shift it, to shake it up, to jerk its tail. And that's by doing something different. So consider some of these suggestions that I have. In order, if you want to change your life, try new things, start small. Start with that smaller thing. Maybe it doesn't cost any money. Maybe it doesn't take a lot of effort. Maybe it doesn't take a lot of planning. Those things are okay too. Particularly if you're in a place of being single and or childless, not by choice, and you're feeling stuck and you're feeling a lot of grief, or maybe even you're feeling depressed. Remember, one small step can help take you to where you want to be. You don't have to just go from 0 to 100 right away. So follow Sounder Sisterhood for more videos for the single and childless, not by choice person.